Heyo, duckies and dice fiends. Welcome back. It is Tuesday. That means it is the Table Talk Show. What a Tuesday it is. This last month has been a year, and these last 3 weeks have been at least 8 months, I think, if that's how my math works out. However, we are, okay, you can't see him too well. We are joined today by Gilmore, as well as my incredible co-host, Candace the Magnificent, filling in for David Lee, who we hope will be back soon. But we are going to talk today about, look, y'all, we're doing silly TTRPG things, right? Right, Gilmore? That's what we're doing. And sometimes it feels weird and wrong and indulgent to do these kinds of things when, I mean, look, Candace and I are both American. Things are kind of falling apart around us. It's not good. It's very stressful. But we're going to talk about why art, storytelling, and all these things are especially important right now. But before we get into that, first off, oh, hello, Matt. Welcome and thank you so much for hanging out with us, Mimics and Misfits. My webhooks for OBS just decided it's not working, so we're going to see what all is behaving and what all is not with the stream today. We're going to find that out in real time. It's going to be fun. But, Candace, what the heck is you? What is we doing here? I'm Kay. I use she and they pronouns. This is Gilmore, he, him terror. That is his other one. You can't hear Candace. Okay, hold on. I know how to fix this now, at least. I know how to fix this one. I'm so sorry, Candace. We're going to make you do this again. Audio output capture. No, cancel. That's not what I want. I want this one. We're going to add existing. We're going to do that. Okay. Candace, would you be so kind as to shower us with your lovely voice again?
Yes. Hello. I am Candace Magnificent. My pronouns are they, she. You can find me across the internet at the Candace Marie on Twitter and Blue Sky, at Candace Magnificent everywhere else. I am a TTRPG performer and voice actor, as well as a writer and an occasional streamer. Trying to do better with that this year. And yeah, that's what I do, and that's what I'm doing here. Shout out to David Lee. I'll try to fill your shoes.
I am hoping Candace could be heard that time. Zycrum, thank you for hanging out and joining us. Loveland, welcome on in. Please let me know. Please assure me that you heard their intro for the second time, and I'm not going to make them do it a third.
I can do
hey,
it a third
DC,
time.
welcome on in. How are you doing? Well, you shouldn't have to. Like, you shouldn't have had to do it second. But okay, we are all good now. So, hello, everyone. The next thing I'm going to do before we jump in is I'm going to give, and I know, wow. I know this is often spicy. Hey, super writer Andy, how you doing? I know this is often spicy, but as some of you know, Chaotic Wholesome is in the D&D Creators Program, and we just got our new monster manuals, so we want to say thank you, Watsy. I just got them. I've not gotten to dug through them yet, but y'all, look at this mind flayer. I was not prepared for how much I was gonna like this cover. Like,
Yeah, that's pretty delicious.
This is probably one of my favorite alternate covers. I'm not gonna lie. This is up there with The Wild Man the Witchlight, which is literally the book that made me start buying alt color covers. Right. Y'all, this one.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
So yes. So thank you, Wizards of the Coast. I will be digging through it. The bit I have flipped through it already, y'all, is actually really, really awesome and actually kind of ties into our topic today. The Mind Flayer matches Candace's lip color. This is
That's
true.
true.
Um, I'm gonna look for one page in particular. Candace. Oh, here, I found it. Haha. Look, y'all, they have nobles. They have stat blocks for nobility, and the art for the nobles is an orc and a dragonborn.
Fancy.
Y'all.
I like that.
Like, yes.
I like that. That's listening.
Yes. We are proud. And
Good.
yes, in case anyone was wondering, orcs are not a monster anymore. Orcs are
Also
in
good.
the monster manual, but they are no longer a monster. So like I said, there's
Beautiful.
an orc noble, but there's not an orc stat block or big monster because they are now a species, just like dwarves used to be in the monster manual, but no more.
Beautiful. We love to
so
see
yes.
that progress.
Gilmore is very demanding today, y'all. I apologize.
He does what he wants.
He really, really does. So, as I was saying before, Candace and I know not everyone here does, but Candace and I both live in America. Things are tough right now. Like, things is real tough right now. Do you just want to come up? You can come up if you're gonna have the angy tail. No? Okay.
He does look disappointed.
He is very, very, very grumpy with me. Lamia, welcome on in. Okay, there we go. I knew it was coming. So while I have Shoulder Cat, hey. While I have Shoulder Cat, who's trying to consume my microphone, I don't know if having him between me and the mic makes me muffled. It does. I'm sorry.
So far, you're okay.
He insists on this shoulder. It has to be this shoulder.
Yeah. Right now, he's giving Lady Hawk vibes, and I'm into it.
Yeah, he is very okay. There we go. He is. I told you, he, him, terror are his. So we play TTRPGs. We do silly games. Sometimes we do silly video games because I don't know about y'all, but like when I play any farming game, I'm not playing as Kay. I'm playing as a TTRPG character, so I can just like feed that obsession a little bit more.
Always.
Also, you know, I want my farmer to bang it out with someone, and I know I'm not going to bang it out with someone, so it's got to be a character, right?
That's perfectly fair.
And especially when things are going sideways, especially when things are going as they are, there is definitely a temptation, I find, to, that's my finger. There's a temptation to feel guilty about partaking in these little pleasures, right? About playing silly games. And I'm here to say, no. If anything, we need art and stories and silly little games more than ever when this happens.
Yes.
I want to do an asterisk to say, stop it with the, well, we're going to have great art now, because this will drive artists to create. Artists are just as tired as everyone else. Art is an act of defiance. It takes energy and creativity. And y'all, artists are tired. So, we are going to talk about how art and storytelling and all that can be like healing and refreshing. But I don't want anyone to sit here and focus on, I'm trying to keep the cat in screen as much as possible because he makes everyone happy, but he's being very difficult to do. So we're not going to sit here and go, make art. You still feel better. It's tough times, so your art will be better. No. Art is an act of defiance, and art is an act of joy. And we're going to talk about why it's good and why you should do it. But, Candace, I'm going to throw it to you. I just talked a whole lot. Tell us about art. Tell us about storytelling. Tell us about you. By the way, happy Black History Month, everyone.
Thank you. Happy Black History Month, everyone. Yeah,
Which is American history, by the way.
365 days a year. No matter what anyone says. Yeah. So for me, I've actually been ruminating on this a lot lately. I have been working on something called, and this is a sneak peek, it's called Lost in Reverie. And it is an 80s fantasy inspired game, AP, that is using the Good Strong Hands system. We started kind of talking about this. I was asked by my collaborator Calamity to join them to do this late last year, actually.
Hey, Rodonza.
And I was really excited when they approached me, but it wasn't until very recently that I realized these commonalities. So, as part of my prep work for this game, especially because I was designing, the book itself doesn't really have a lot of information about what's in the world and who's in the world. They have the ancestry archetypes and stuff in the book that you can choose for character creation, but there's no like bestiary. There's no information on locations or places or anything like that, right? No NPCs. It's all just down to you and your table and your players to come up with the world. The world is just called Reverie, and then the bad thing is called the Void. That's kind of all they give you for the framework. So I was doing all of this work to try and world build for my players and to try and figure out, what I wanted to have happen in the story and the direction for the story. And on my journey in doing that, all of this horrible shit was happening all around. And I realized that it was more than just escapism. It was also a chance to kind of like have an informal treatise as to what we stand for, what we believe in, who we are, and not backing down from those truths and being our authentic selves. And as preparation, I started watching some 80s flicks. So I sat down, I did Neverending Story again, I did Labyrinth again, I did Legend again, I did Lady Hawk again, right? I've been pounding some classic 80s fantasy. And I was talking to some people about it, about the time period in general. And I realized that all of those movies, that boom of magic and wonder and delight and excitement that we had, right? Where it was all about light winning over darkness and accepting the darkness inside of ourselves as a way to protect and amplify the light, right? These stories about finding your people and fitting in, even like the Lost Boys, right? 80s horror, where it's all about, found family, right? That movie is about found family and what happens when your found family makes you just more appreciative of the family that you have that maybe you didn't notice the way that you should have before, right? Lots and lots of movies with main themes of finding and making community during the Reagan administration. Right? Arguably another really awful time in America's history where things were pretty fucking bleak for a while for a lot of people. And I started thinking about that and I was just like, man, like that's going to help everyone, right? It's going to help everyone to be able to pour ourselves into this art, to pour our ideas and our understanding into this art. These 80s movies meant so much to so many people. A lot of queers, and myself included, we found ourselves in these movies. We found our non-binary and transness in these movies. We found, like ways to understand ourselves better and ways to express ourselves better. And I think like when I brought that back to the cast, all of them had the same thought. Like all of them were like, there's something else that I want to bring into this. And then today I had a session just earlier today where I had a special guest who was playing an ecological type character, like a water spirit. And without really giving too much insight into what their character should be, just giving them kind of a name and an idea, like a concept, they injected environmentalism and environmental activism into the game. And I was like, I watched it before my very eyes and was just like, right, it was subtle. It wasn't like, super loud, but it was very much commentary on like how we don't think about how our consumption and our ways of disposal affect people outside of our sphere, right? Which like arguably in a more metaphorical way, our waste right now in office is absolutely harming other people. So I was pretty proud and very pleased because each character is really trying, each player is trying to bring that sense of defiance and that proud fist in the air and that big fuck you to the table in this game. And a lot of the people that have been asking me, hell yeah, a lot of the people who have been asking me to do games this year. Like a lot of the stuff that I'm in, even Wyvern Zarya that you and I are in, that's coming soon. That game is also rooted in a biracial identity, right? Being biracial and being of two worlds, and what happens when those worlds collide, right? In one place, or one person, right? If it's metaphorical. So I don't know. I don't feel ready for what's coming, but I do feel armed for what's coming because we have this art and because we have this way to be.
And I'm going to a statement that I heard that impacted me very deeply because look, I'm not going to say that I did not have supportive parents. My parents were always very, perhaps overly supportive of my art and the weird stuff I want to do. But they were like, it's weird, right? You do weird stuff. Like my mom, I remember I had been working for DeviantArt for long enough that I was living in Hollywood. And my mom is just like, when is my child going to get a real job, right? When are they going to grow up? Like waiting for this to happen and just like having that fear that like I was never going to get my act together, right? I was never going to be. And we worked with, I had a friend who was in LA and loved DeviantArt, did a lot of stuff with us, was one of the community managers there, or Gallery Mott, I forget what they called it. But, and she worked at California Costumes. And she said, do you all want to come and tour California Costumes? Do you want to come see where we do that? And I'm like, oh, hell yes. And my mom was in town the day that this was supposed to happen. So I'm like, hey, can I bring my mom? And they're like, oh, yeah, sure, no problem. And so we get there. And of course, my mom was a sewer. So she was so excited to like see the patterns and the machines cutting it out, right? And they did a really cool like little dive on like, this is why things cost so much, right? Because it's not just the material you're using, it's the material you don't use. And they're showing, what. And then we go into the back where they're making the monster sculpts and the masks, right? And all that. And it's a bunch of, clearly these dudes play TTRPGs, right? There was no question. They were beardy. They had the scraggly, weird beards. They had like, their hair was not dyed, but they had like patches of color, right? It wasn't like a true dye job. They had heavy metal playing, right? And they were making all this cool stuff. And my mom is like looking around like, these are adults. They have jobs. This is their job. They are making money doing this. Maybe you can, right? Like you could see this change. And there was not a story that I could tell her. There was not a thing that I could do that would let her understand the world I was in. But seeing someone else living that life did it. Most people, though, most of us, we don't need to actually see it with our own eyes. And the statement that has forever stuck with me is storytelling is sacred. Storytelling is what makes us human. No other species that we're aware of yet tells stories, right? Other species use tools. We sat around the fire, we ate, and we told stories. And this is why gathering around food is so important to us. And this is why storytelling is so important. And the stories you tell, you will probably be shocked at the things that stand out to other people in your stories. I will never forget. David and I were just getting to know each other. We'd known each other a little while. We were not yet best friends, but we were like, ooh, this person, right? Ooh, okay, maybe, right? That kind of, maybe. And especially as a femme, it's like, I hope this one isn't weird.
Not
right?
creepy yet.
Yeah, not creepy yet. I hope it doesn't get there. I'm really excited. Don't be weird, and this could be great, right? Be the right kind of weird, not the creepy kind of weird. And I was like, David, you need to watch The Dragon Prince. And he's like, and I'm like, David, you need to watch The Dragon Prince, right? And I'm like, and of course, look, y'all, I do not apologize. I ship the king and his evil advisor. I don't remember his name, but those first couple episodes.
They are obviously ex-boyfriends.
Obviously.
That was a couple fight every time.
The one, get on your knees. You are a servant, so serve. And I'm like,
come on.
I'm like, I have seen full-on gay porn less gay than this.
Yeah.
Like,
very, very gay.
and of course, when I pitch it to David that way, he's like, okay, let's see. Like how on crack is Kay? And he's like, oh, wow. But the first thing that David said to me about Dragon Prince was he goes, I have never seen, outside of Boondocks, I have never seen in not targeted Black mainstream media someone with my hair before.
Mm-hmm.
And look, I grew up as a femme playing JRPGs, so I was pretty late into my gaming career until I got to play as a woman in a game, right? But there were certainly people who looked like me, or at least a little bit like me, right? I didn't look like Tifa or Aerith, right? But I had at least something in common with them. And that was a moment that hit me so hard of like, of all this, there's a great story and David loved it and it's meant a lot to him, right? But the thing that hit him hardest first was just, that person looks like me.
Yeah.
It's a cartoon and it still looks like me.
That's a powerful feeling. Like, that's a powerful feeling. So many people that are Black, largely femme, relax our hair. And like, I remember growing up, when I first relaxed my hair, my mom had fought me tooth and nail for years. I asked for a relaxer. I wanted long Rapunzel princess hair. I would put on a towel on my head and be like, look at my long hair. And I didn't care if the hair was curly or not, right? I just needed more of it. I just needed it to be long so I could do a lot of tossing and swinging and all that stuff. And then on the days when I wanted to wear jeans, been non-binary for a long time, y'all. On the days I wanted to wear jeans, I could have whatever hair. It didn't matter. But like, if I was in a pretty dress or whatever, I wanted fancy princess hair to go with my fancy princess dress, right? It was really just about aesthetic and choice. Mm-hmm. And my mom refused. She was like, absolutely not. I'm not giving you a relaxer. No. Which today, having successfully convinced my mom to do about a decade of relaxers, maybe 15 years of relaxers, and having all kinds of issues, I'm talking to a lawyer right now because they're poisonous. Surprise. But back then, didn't know that. And I finally convinced my mother to straighten my hair. It was the worst thing I could have asked to do. My curl pattern was awful. After that, like, I had to regrow it all from scratch when I was in my 30s, like my early 30s. Like, I had to just be like, fuck it, shaved all my hair off and let it grow in natural, and I've been natural ever since. But man, when I say that, like, the power of seeing someone who looks like you, that could have saved me a little bit from that, right? Yeah. So many little Black kids grow up and they don't think that, like, what they've got rockin' is good. And like, my mom told me I was beautiful every fucking day, right? I had a wonderful household. I was very privileged in that my parents were nice people, right? It wasn't a perfect childhood. I've had a ton of issues as well. But when it comes to self-esteem and how I felt about me, I had a very awesome foundation, very privileged to have an awesome foundation there. However, I would leave my house feeling gorgeous and get to school and immediately feel hideous because I went to a school where I was one of 2 Black children in the entire elementary school, right? So junior high school, one of 3 Black children in the entire high school. So, you know, it's really difficult because not seeing yourself, it can change how you understand yourself, right?
Absolutely.
Like, I felt good until I had a reason to not feel good, until someone made it weird, until somebody complained, until somebody was like, what's wrong with your hair, right? And that normalization, it's not just for the Black kids, right? We don't need shows like Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur and stories that feature diverse people just for people of color. We need that for white people because that normalizes it, right? Now that I'm in an industry where people are used to diversity, I feel beautiful all the time. Sometimes I feel handsome. Sometimes I feel both, right? But I'm never like, oh no, my hair, what's someone going to think about my hair, right? That's never on my mind because it's been normalized. And I think that's something that people take for granted. And that the same goes for any kind of art, right? For disabilities, for example. Something I've started to try and do in my art, especially when I am GMing, is have people who are differently abled, right? Which I understand that's an outdated term. Having people that are disabled, it's an attempt at trying to show someone and who they are in the work, right? Like, I have chronic illnesses. I don't very often see people who have chronic illnesses in games. When I do, does it make a fucking huge difference? Hell yeah, right? I built a library in my game. That library also has a ramp, right? Mentioning the ramp isn't for my players. It's for the viewer who's going, is there a ramp at this library? Because I'm going to tell you this right now. I was unable to walk for a month. I had twisted my ankle during the pandemic and I was on crutches and couldn't stand by myself and couldn't go to the hospital for obvious reasons. And I never appreciated my mobility more. My mobility is not perfect. I am not at 100%. On a good day, I'm at like 75 to 80%. But like having that taken from me made me realize what I was taking for granted before. And now that's something that I try to focus on in my games, because, you know, when you aren't thinking about people outside of yourself, you start to get a little tunnel vision. Yeah, honestly. And that can be really hard to come back from. And I feel like as a country, that's kind of where America is at, right? There was tunnel vision. People were offended by how things had gone. They were like, I want better for me and my family. This guy is saying he's going to do it. And then that's as far as they went. I just want to shit on those people and not shit on me. Okay. And look where it's gotten us.
Welcome in, Alaria. And yeah, everyone's talking about, everyone has done the hair thing. Everyone's done the towel thing. That says, it was like magic. Yeah. You could be fancy as hell in a heartbeat.
Yep.
I don't think I ever did the towel thing. I don't actually know this towel thing y'all are speaking of.
No? Oh, you put your towel on your head, right? Like when you get out of the shower and you're like drying your hair, you do the little like wrappy deal with the towel. No?
Never did it.
You've never dried your hair like that? My goodness. Well, that's what we're talking about. You flip your head down, you put the back of the towel on the back of your head, you like twist it, and then you flip it up, and then you have like a little like twisty in the front kind of situation, and then it's down the back. And depending on how large you are or how large your towel is, you can have more or less hair.
Interesting. Hair. Hey, Rex has done. Wow, I definitely. I also, my hair was down to my butt.
Oh, so you didn't need that.
Until my freshman year of high school, when I cut it all off. I said no more. So, you know, one moment in television that gave me chills, good ones, and educated me a bit was Viola Davis in How to Get Away with Murder taking off her wig. Oh my goodness, that scene was so powerful. Yeah. Well, and to a really good point you made, Candace, which is like normalizing things, because look, there were a lot of shows that featured Black actors and people of but they were all on BET. And I have family members who would be like, we're not watching that. That's for Black people, right? That's not.
Yeah, it's not for us.
Right. And early on, it was when we were first, you and I knew each other, but we weren't like super, super close. And we were going through an issue with someone, and we had reached out to a GM friend of yours, and I was there for moral support, and told him about an issue that was being had, and he was great. He's all like, cool, we're done with this person. Done. No problem. Not an issue. Yep. And then I will never forget, and I spoke over you, Candace, which I did not mean to do, but I had that moment of like, because he goes like, he's like, I try really hard to keep my tables diverse, and I'm even thinking I should maybe stop GMing and I should just run production, because no one needs to see another dude like me on screen. And I'm like, no, we need people who look like you to be playing games with people who look like me and look like Candace and look like David and look like Cherie and look like all of these different people. Because if all Black tables are going to be less likely to be watched by white people.
Yep.
And look, I'm not saying don't do all Black tables. Do all Black tables. There's amazing magic that happens when you let the people come together. But if we go back to everything being segregated all the time, then there's amazing stories and introspections and understandings that people won't get because they go, it's not for me.
Yeah.
I'm not welcome here.
I think too, like the concept that you're just, it's one and done, right?
Yeah.
No one has started Critical Role expecting to watch one episode, right? The understanding is this is going to be a thing I'm either into now forever, or a thing that I was into, or a thing that I'm just not into at all, right? Those are the three settings. There's never I'm going to watch one episode and be done, right? Unless there's a one shot. And even then, if you're at Critical Role and you're watching a one shot, you've probably seen some other shit there before, right?
Well, I have 100% tuned in to a one shot because I'm like, oh, this performer that I like is in it. oh,
Mhm.
I really like these 3 other people, right?
Mhm.
I'm going to go deep dive. That's actually how I found that bronze girl, is I was watching a one shot that she was in with someone else. And I went, this
Mhm.
is great. And then I went and found Shakar and I'm like, cool, I'm in, I'm addicted. Put it in the vein. I'm here.
Like this is a day and age where I think we are starting to see a very large divide between what allyship is in practice and what allyship is in theory, right? There are a lot
Yes.
of people out there, white people specifically, that will tell you that they are an ally. And like, that's fine. There are some white people that can say, I am an ally because I've told them that they are my ally and that's how I feel. But there are some people out there that have not been told they're an ally to anyone. They're just letting you know they're an ally. And to me, the second that you want to tell me that you're an ally, you have recused yourself from having to do any actual work because you've already done the first step of telling me you're an ally, right? And to me, that's not enough. And I feel very strongly about this, especially right now, because we are entering a time where we don't really know what the fuck is going on, man, right? We don't know what's going to happen. And when people say that they want to support and promote and uplift POC talent, right? I was at a table a few months ago. I had an emergency. My internet went out. There was, I think there was a car accident or something like that happened, and it hit one of the wires, and everything was down in my apartment complex. And so I reached out and I was like, hey, I can do a hotspot and everything, but it's not going to be enough to run all the things I need for this game. So you guys go ahead without me. It was the second or third time this game had been rescheduled. I was like, listen, you guys want to play. I know everyone's excited. Don't let me slow you down. And I was told, well, actually, because you can't make it, that only leaves one person of color at the table, and we have a minimum to go live. And I was like, okay, so you're effectively making it my fault as the person of color that these white people can't play? Because I don't think that's what you want to do here. I don't think that's what you need, right? That's not supporting me and that's not supporting them. And if anything, anybody that comes to your table that might have like microaggressions in their blood or might have any kind of weird, like underlying racist issues, that's going to exacerbate that problem, right? That's only going to internalize that more. So you need to be very explicit and very clear with people and not just say that you're doing the right thing, right? Think about it. Put a picture of my fucking face up there in the spot where I was going to be and go live, right? Like there's still a person there. I just couldn't make it. Yeah. So it's things like that that are really starting to wear me down in this industry. Like, I know that, you know, it's difficult to find people that you trust. It's difficult to open up your doors or your table to people because what we're doing here is very, very vulnerable. It is something that is not necessarily easy to do when you're telling a story that has more depth to it or more, you know, emotion to it, something more dramatic, especially. But that's no excuse for not opening your doors to other people, right? And just as we've seen with Critical Role, they do not do a good job with diversity. Everyone knows that. They have like 8 white people on screen at one time for no reason, right? Nobody needs that many white people in one place like that, unless it's Downton Abbey and you're talking about like 1924 England. Cool. Even then, they got one black person. So to me, that's a little. And they've tried to open up their doors to other people by having guests, by having, you know, separate, you know, non-main campaign events and things like that, right? You can see them trying to make up that difference. Whether or not they're successful is a whole other story, but they're trying. Right?
I don't know if you know, but Thursday is the last session of campaign 3. Campaign 3 is ending. And I'm going to be very interested to see what they do campaign 4. Especially as odds are, they're going to be switching to Daggerheart, right? We all know they're switching to Daggerheart. They're done with WotC.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's going to be very interesting because, you know, Sam had to step away for a while last because he had a whole cancer thing. And, you know, they have brought in these people and guests, and it's going to be very interesting to see if certain people decide, cool, I'm a step back and I'm now going to be the special guest character and let these other people. I don't know. We'll see.
They have such a wide viewership that like they should just split them into 2 tables. Like it's not as though you don't have the viewers for 2 separate main campaign tables, right? Yeah. You could have a game with unlimited fucking people. You have all the money that you need to do that, right? To me, I'm like, it's not a mystery. Just fucking do it. right? Let other people come to your stuff and amplify those POC. Give them more standing ground, right? Give them people that are going to follow them, that are going to care about them, that are uplift them. And that's what I think I want to see trickle down from the top level. Like Dimension 20 is awesome at that. They bring people in all the time.
Yeah. I'm also going to, real quick in chat, Lamia says, I do not need allies. I need accomplices. I need co-conspirators. I need people willing to be shields. Rex says, as a white guy, I've had a few people put a post-it of ally on me, and I treat it as such. I recognize it can be removed in any time. Which is exactly what Mark J says. You know, you're in the book, but you're in pencil. And I'm like, please, the minute someone tries to put me down in ink, slap their hand, because I will mess up. And if I don't do my work of fixing it once I mess up, then I shouldn't be in there.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about accountability, right? At the end of the day, a lot of people want to say that they're into accountability, and then they get called in and they're like, and it's a problem, right? They react defensively, they get upset, they get embarrassed. They're like, oh no, what am I going to do? To me, the most impressive white person is one that's publicly called out and has fucking solutions, right? Have some solutions. Hey, yeah, I fucked up. I'm always learning. I'm really sorry I hurt this person. Here's what I am going to do. Right? Somebody named Erin My Laundry. She runs, they run Philly by Night. Erin was called in by a black player for not having enough black people on a show that is set in Philadelphia, which is one of the blackest cities in the country. Right? So because of that, what happened? Right? What happened? She took steps. They reached out to like 2 different organizations in Philadelphia that are black owned and black led and black sponsored that help their communities. They set up a fundraiser to donate all of the profits for their channel for like, I think 6 months or something like that. They gave extra spotlight time to the NPCs in the black player story, one of which was me. I was invited for that. And because it was happening while I was joining their show, they also wrote to me personally to tell me they had been called in, because I didn't know. So they wrote to me personally to be like, hi, I was called in for this. I completely agree. I fucked up. This is what I'm doing to fix it. I just wanted to ask, is it okay if I put your name out there as a black person that I feel that is really excellent and very talented, that I want people in the space to follow? And I said, could I read your write-up just to make sure that I know what I'm a party to here? Because if you're going to be calling me out, I need to know what you said, right?
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry you felt offended.
Yes. Like, please don't make me do this work for you, honey. So they sent me the tweets and I read them and they were perfect. They were wonderfully written. I was like, this is beautiful. Thank you so much. Do you know they sent me $25 for my time?
Aww.
I was like, that's how you fucking do it. Okay. That's how you do it. You made me go through your trauma, right? Your issue with this issue being brought to you and how bad you felt, right? You asked me for my input and I read a tweet thread of 10 tweets. Yes, that is worth $25. Thank you so much, right? Like, I'm not saying that there has to be an exchange of goods and services, but sometimes I don't even get so much as a thank you.
Yeah.
Right? So when it comes to allyship, I think people need to put their money where their mouth is and actually be accountable, right? Don't be afraid of getting called out. That's how you grow. That's how you learn. If you're not getting called out, people are just not telling you you're fucking up.
Well, that's what I've had to explain to people. It's like, if you're out with a friend of color, right? Or coworker, especially coworker. If you're out with a coworker of color and they run in to another person of color that they know, and that person comes up and starts talking to them, and they're like, especially if that person of color is speaking to them in a way that they don't speak to you, you are not trusted. You are getting the customer service voice. That is not the other person that is not this person of color that you don't know being strange. That is this person's life, and they are whiting themselves for you. That means you are not in the circle of trust. Think about that shit.
See, and that's the thing. I think a lot of people don't care because they think it doesn't really change anything. But especially when we're talking about art is extremely personal. And if you are going to put together an all-white table and all of your NPCs are white and your struggles are that of marginalized and oppressed people, that tells me so much about you. Like, that tells me so much about you. Like, don't invite me to your all-white table plus me. I'm good, right? Like, I don't need it. Will I play at some all-white tables? Mine, plus me. If I know you and you're good people, then yes, right? I do make exceptions. But the other day, perfect example. The other day, somebody came to me and was like, Candace, I need you to recommend me a white woman. I need a white woman in my show. I have an NPC. I'm looking for a white woman. I was like, ooh, good thing you came to me. Do I have a list of white ladies for you? My goodness. So I sat down and I was like, and an hour later, I was still like, and I had 2 names down and I was like, fuck, where are all the white ladies? And then I realized I've been in this industry for almost 4 years. They're gone. Okay. I have rooted out the white ladies because almost all of them have been not the best. So I had a list that was 4 people long, and it took 3 hours of me like going back and forth to figure this out because I've had to change my spaces. I've had to change access to me, right? I think a lot of people forget that when you're talking to someone who has a different life than you, they're granting you access. They're granting you a window into that experience, right? Whether that's somebody who's disabled, whether that's somebody who is neurodivergent, whether that's somebody who is queer or trans or non-binary or asexual, right? Like they are granting you time and information. And what you do with that information is very different than what you should do with that information. We should be listening and learning. We should be using that information to not center ourselves, right? Ever since I became friends with you and met Piper, I have not centered allosexuality, right? That's not, I don't automatically assume people are going to be interested. When I run Thirsty Sword Lesbians, I offer a variety of options, all of which are romanceable or friendable, right? Like it has changed the way that I have done things because I recognize there is a need for that, right? For other people. And I think that that ability to learn is something that shows me that someone is actually interested in being an ally, because so many people, it goes in one ear and out the other. They give you an approximation of what they think you should do rather than actually finding the right answer and then putting that into their life as like a technique or a procedure, you know?
And yeah, Matt says if white folks don't pass the Candace test, they don't get a seat. And that is...
Thank you.
I will also say, like, representation... I know David has said so many times, ask any black person when was the first time they saw a black person on TV? When was the first time they saw an anime character that they knew was black, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had... My journey to figuring out I was ace was very, very, very long because I was raised very puritanical and Christian. And it was like, oh, you shouldn't even think about wanting sex until you're married, right? So for the longest time, I was just like, no, I haven't married person yet. We're just waiting. And then I just kept waiting, right? Mm. And then once I finally figured it out, again, this is not woe is me, but it was like, I said, oh, I am part of this community. I figured this out. And the West Hollywood gays said, no, you're not part. Mm-mm. You don't, asexuals don't suffer, aren't punished the same way that homosexuals are. Sorry, no. And I said, okay, because I was like, my bad. I misread, right?
Mm-mm.
And then I finally, we all got there, right? We got there. But I was watching, of all things, and I'm sorry to our viewers who have heard this before, right? But of all things, I was watching BoJack Horseman. BoJack frickin' Horseman. And Todd is like the one that he makes a whole dildo sex machine for his girlfriend to try to make her happy. And she's like, do you not want to sleep with me? Are you gay? And he's like, I'm not gay. I don't think I'm anything. And it was like I started to have a panic attack on my couch because I'm like, those are my thoughts. Those are why are those on TV? That's my because it was the first time in decades that I had heard anything resembling my own thought process anywhere, and it was absolutely terrifying. Because what do you mean this isn't just a me thing?
That changes everything.
It was so strange. Where are all the white ladies and queers largely outside the gates because they thought they could raid the castle and shit on the floors?
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I think that like That's what I'm saying. That as important as that is for you, and as life-changing as that is for you, when you meet someone who's watched that show, you don't have to explain yourself.
Yeah.
Right? There's no learning curve.
No.
There's no, oh, how's this person gonna feel when I try and tell them about this thing? Right? They already know.
Oh, yeah.
They're safe, right? At least this first gate, this first hurdle has been crossed. They might fuck up later, but right now they've gotten in, right? Like that first barrier is gone. And I've been in situations where people have pretended to have jumped that hurdle. And then I find out months into a friendship or a romantic relationship, just kidding. This entire time I've been talking about my experiences, they've been culture vulturing me and just kind of, you know, walking through this place like a tourist rather than like someone who is a major part of my life and needs to know these things about me so that you can support me, right? You can't support somebody if you don't know what they're going through, and you can't fight for somebody if you don't know what they're going through. And it's not easy to come out and say these things, right? It's not easy to go, hey, so I know you're flirting with me and have been for the last hour, but I didn't pick up on it because I'm ace. Also, I'm ace. That's like not easy, right?
And then there's the dread of like, oh, I was telling this story to Matt when he was streaming yesterday. I was at E3. I was covering E3 as a journalist. We went to an after E3 party, me and this other guy, and he was kind of getting a little bit flirty. And I'm like, hey, yo, I'm ace. And he's like, no. And this is, let me be clear before I say this. Game of Thrones was over by this point. We knew how this ended. He goes, oh, you're not Ace. You're just Brienne and you need your Jaime.
Stop.
And of course, he made it very clear, continuing, he was going to be my Jaime and he was going to fix me, right?
All right, first of all, Jaime.
Oh, Candace, it gets better.
Who did Jaime fix in that entire show? But anyway.
It gets better. He reported to me.
No! Swing and a miss, dude.
Yeah, it was very...
Ugh! How do you take that liberty with your direct report? Just the flirtation is a no. Let alone, well, now that I've flirted and made you deeply uncomfortable, but you're still being a homie about it, let me double down and tell you that I am like a shitty dude who pushes children out of windows and fucks his sister. I can save you. I can fix you.
We're like...
You're obviously very broken if you don't want to have me as the delicious dish I am.
I've got a magic dong that's gonna fix you, right? Just let me in there.
I don't understand why there's even a concept of anything being broken there.
Hey, Jason.
You're fine.
And like at the end of the night, I'm like, okay, I pull out my phone and I'm like, cool, I'm gonna call my Lyft home. And he's like, should I get a ride? And I'm like, unless you want to stay here.
Should I get a ride? Okay, so there's a new episode of Chaotic Wholesome Table Talk that's coming out. It's called How to Take a Goddamn Hint and Read the Fucking Room. Next time on Chaotic Wholesome.
And like that is just because, and that's a lot of the time I had to explain. I have a friend who's like, I am a straight white British dude, right? I am the problem. I don't know a whole lot. Like as friends a lesbian, but I just don't know much about this. I am the whole problem and I'm afraid to ask, right? Like, and I'm like, no, ask, right? Just ask.
Yeah.
And, you know, don't be rude about it. And so he asked and he's like, what? I don't understand, Ace. What is it? Oh, I'm so sorry. And like, he was just like beating himself up over it. And I'm like, we go through it and he's like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, no, my dude, you didn't ask me how many dicks I've sucked. You didn't ask me how many different people of different genders I've slept with. You didn't ask for all the details to like vet, am I like, and he's like, what, people do that? And I'm like, yes, this is why I'm saying you're not the entire problem.
Oh my God.
He's like, but that's, you shouldn't do that. I'm like, yes. And this is why a lot of ace people don't want to talk about the fact that they're ace because they get bombarded with these icky questions. And that is something that you don't know unless you ask me. You can't tell I'm ace by looking at me. And that's a massive privilege in and of itself.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard to deal with that privilege as well. I think something else that a lot of people take for granted, especially in this community, because again, we're telling stories and we're playing make-believe, but we're telling personal stories, right? Yeah. I don't know a single person that doesn't put at least a little bit of themselves into their character. I have never played one character ever that didn't have at least a smidge of something that was relatable to me. It's very hard for me to play a character that's completely outside of who I am unless I am acting, right? If I'm reading a script and the words are written, then cool, I can focus on on emotion, right? And delivering that emotion. And that's to me what acting is, right?
Yes.
But when it comes to improv, you have to pull from somewhere, right? You've got to take from somewhere. And granted, I have all of the world experiences of all of my wonderful, diverse friends to pull from, which I do, right? But I'm not going to pretend that I know what it's like to be in those shoes, especially not in a public facing game, right? So to me, like when you get into a headspace where you have the opportunity to learn or be defensive, always choose to learn, because you don't know when you're going to be able to use that again, right?
Yeah.
Like you are never, ever, ever going to stop learning unless you decide to stop learning, right? I was taught from a very young age to be open to all types of story and all type of lesson from anywhere. If I'm talking to a 7-year-old and that 7-year-old has something that he needs to say to me or that they want to impart to me, some kind of wisdom, I don't care what it is. I'll still listen, right? Tell me, yeah, I know that lizards are dinosaurs. Thank you so much. That's wonderful, right? I didn't come away with anything new today other than the fact this kid likes dinosaurs. That's what I learned today, right? But sometimes a kid will open their mouth and fucking blow you away with their perspective.
And sometimes they'll say the meanest thing in the God's damn world because kids are monsters.
Yeah, but like you can still learn, right? Learning is something that I think a lot of people take for granted. And in this community, we have such a diverse group of people. And I think placing the emphasis on defensiveness and proving that you aren't what someone is accusing you of, that is not the way, right? That is not the way, especially in 2025. Like, I'm staring down the barrel of situations where people are having nasty things to say about me behind the scenes because I spoke up about somebody that was not doing what they needed to do and claiming to be someone they weren't in the space. And I didn't want someone to get hurt on my watch, right? I needed help having this conversation. It wasn't easy, right? It took me days to write what I needed to write. It took me 3 hours to record a 15-minute video of me reading the fucking thing, right? It wasn't an easy time. So to find out later on that people are taking all of this work and effort, right, that I've put into my art, that I've put into my community, that I've put into white and POC creators alike to try and make things better has been nightmarish at the very least, right? When people say that they need support, when people say that you need to be an ally, that you need to act as an ally to get that badge, it's that kind of shit, right? When someone says something about ace people, when someone says something about mental health, when someone says something about Black people and you sit there and you don't say anything because you're nervous or because you're worried or because of that, how many followers that person has, or, oh, I don't want to fuck up my project. I don't want anybody to get offended. I don't want to offend the offended people. Like, you're not living your life in a true fashion. You are allowing what other people think and what other people want to dictate who you are and what you put your name on. That's not art. I'm sorry. Art is brave. Art is noble. Art does not give a fuck what other people think. Art is there to be consumed and understood however it's understood. And art is there to serve as an example of who we are as people. And that's what makes it awesome, right? That's what makes it an act of defiance, an act of resistance. You can't be pussyfooting and be an artist. You're not going to tell the truth. You're not going to give a real perspective of who you are. And when you talk about us all being in this industry together, showing up for people fucking matters. Showing up for people matters, right? Whether you agree with what someone is doing and how they're doing it or not, voice that to them. But show up, right? Don't just be quiet. Don't just act like maybe it's not a problem, because guess what happens when you do that? Art goes away, right? When people are silent, there's no way to fight that. You can't fight silence. Even if you are the loudest person in the room. If everyone else is silent, it's going to be real fucking hard to be heard over all of that silence.
And that's
like,
what
show up for people.
That's what Todd. I work in video games by day. Y'all probably know, community manager. The amount of time I spent explaining to people, like, yes, people are mad, but that means they care. If we change something and no one said anything, that is terrifying because that means no one cares.
Yep.
And I know I have said this, and I know Candace, you will say this, and people will say it. Say something to your favorite creator. If something touched you, say it. Leave a review. DM them. Message. I've said this before. I have a folder of screenshots of nice things people have said about my performances, about shows I have produced, about their time on an AP I played in or produced or ran. I have screenshots of people saying, hey, this Lines and Veils document that you made is exactly what I needed for my group. Because creating is hard, especially in times like this. It is very hard. And you need those attaboys to keep creating. You need those pats on the back sometimes. Because
Absolutely.
sometimes you can't stop. Sometimes it just pours out of you, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there are times when you go, no, I have to create. There are days where I'm like, okay, self, it's Tuesday. We have to like comb our hair, put on a halfway decent shirt, and go stand in front of a computer. And that's me getting to talk to one of my best friends for an hour and a half. And there are days I have to talk myself into doing it. Because it is effort. Effort sucks.
Yes, but it's a worthy pursuit.
Yes.
And like, you are a part, an important and an established part of so many people's lives, right? Whether you realize it or not. I have been in places too like that where I'm just like, I just don't got it. Like, I just don't got it. I'm sorry. I've given all I can, right? I'm dealing with personal issues. I'm dealing with issues in this very community. I've got fucking a literal globe on my back and I can't get out from under it.
Yeah.
But then someone comes to me and is like, hey, I was at PAX and someone came to me and was like, I just wanted to tell you what you've done in this industry, the stories that you tell. I've seen pretty much everything you've ever been in. And I just like can't stop watching your stuff because you have made me a better storyteller. And I was just like,
Oh, that's so good.
it is 12 o'clock midnight at a hotel bar at PAX U. And I'm going to need you to take it down 15 notches because I don't want to cry all my makeup off and look like that person, that drunk person in the corner sobbing into my Manhattan. Please don't do this to me. It was beautiful. It was so meaningful. And when I got home and I had my con crash and I was done, like more things had kind of come to me during that time. I hadn't been, I had gotten no invitations to fancy things that I had wanted to go to because I knew it was punishment, right? It was retaliation for speaking my truth, right? I was just like, what the fuck, man? But I thought about that person and how important my work has been. And I thought about all the times that I showed up for someone else, right? All the times that I was like, man, I really want to call it a dead planet, but somebody at the table is a shithead. And if I call out, my friends are going to be stuck with that shithead. All right, well, you gotta get it together, friend. You just gotta get it going, right?
Yeah.
All the times that I was like, I really don't want to do this reshoot because a GM fucked up and took away a player's agency. And this person is really hurt. And this is like their last attempt at working with this creator, right? With this showrunner. And this might be the last time I ever work with that showrunner. I really don't want to deal with that. That's a lot of stress. I've had a really bad day. Fine. I'll show up, And like conversely, on those days when you just fucking can't, if you feel comfortable sharing why you just fucking can't, choose your moments wisely because this has not always helped me. It has not always gone over well to give a little bit more information, a little more insight. Sometimes people just don't give a fuck. But I will say that in those rare moments where someone doesn't give a fuck, they at least tell you that so that you can avoid them forever. After.
Exactly.
And you never have to go back there. Yeah, I mean, it hurts in the moment, but then you don't have to worry about it.
Well, and again, I will not retaliate. Woo, I will reiterate. Wow, y'all, I speak for a living. I use words professionally. I will reiterate, like, it means so much with David being in the hospital. Incredible members of our community. I'm looking at so many people in chat, especially you, Rex. Rex has done so many voice memos for me to give to let David listen to. That means it was all for David, right? The focus is on David. David needs to get better. We need to do things to help David. But everyone was talking about things that I also got to participate in. I was also part of, and it meant so much to me. And I want to be careful what I say here because I don't want this to be like, oh, poor me, pity party. But it's like, I'm also missing my creative partner and my best friend, right? This is the person I talk to nonstop when both of us are conscious, and when one of us isn't, we're just bombarding the other person with memes. I wake up with no memes now, right? And it was like, I just moved cross country. The government is governmenting. And I'm missing my best friend, and it's real. I don't have the energy and the creativity to do the charity stream this year that I always want to do. Like, it was tough. Like, it was unapologetically tough. And even though everyone was sending messages for David, like, getting to hear what they were saying bolstered me, because this was, yes, incredible things being said about my best friend, but it's also things I got to be involved in. So even secondhand, it has meant so much to me. So would like to say thank you. I'm also going to backtrack very quickly because Lamia made an incredible point of just holding an identity does not automatically make you an ally or a good member of that community.
Oh boy.
I am also going to say, also just because you, especially if you are a new member of that community, if you have newly discovered that, you are also not an expert.
Yes.
You are not an expert. You do not, especially if you have not sat down and researched the history, especially if you don't know the shoulders on which your rights came, right? So even, again, when I came out and said, oh, I'm Ace, I'm part of the LGBTQIA community, and people said, no, you're not. That's not part of this. And I went, okay, my bad, my mistake, right? That was wrong. They were incorrect, but also I went, you know what? I want to be a good ally, my bad. And then it was years later I went, no, they were wrong. I was right. And it's okay that I backed off, because to me, making sure that I am right is more important than going, no. Correction, my being in the right is more important than my being right.
Yeah.
And that's what's really important.
Well, I think that shows a respect for other marginalized people. There's a lot of times, what Lamia is saying is spot on, right?
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who are marginalized that for whatever reason don't have the empathy and the sympathy for other people in their demographic or in other demographics, right?
Yeah.
We're seeing plenty of POC and marginalized people that are rallying behind a person that's in office right now that doesn't care one fig about their rights or about the rights of people like them, right? It's an incredible waste of time. And I feel like as we're going into this kind of secondary dark age now with this person in the driver's seat, establishing what you stand for, what you will or will not put up with, and who you are is important, right? This isn't a time where fence sitting is welcome, right? This is not the time of, well, no. And when someone gives you the opportunity to learn, right? That was a shitty experience for you. Having LGBT people be like, nah, you're not involved, right? I'm sure trans people in certain parts of this country right now are going through that, right? Where it's like, oh, LGB without the T, right? As a former bisexual, before I knew other terms to talk about my sexuality, right? As somebody who for a very long time was a staunch bisexual, like, I was not welcome in so many places for a long time.
Yeah.
Everybody goes through their humps, right? Through the motion of acceptance. It just takes longer than others, right? Depending on where you're at. Autistic people, right? There are still countries in this world where autism is seen as something that is distasteful, that is a disability that means that you can't even immigrate to that country, right? Like, there's a lot of prejudice in this world still, whether you actively feel it or not. And when someone else comes to you and tells you that they're having that experience, it's important to listen to that and to incorporate that into your understanding of the world, right? Let people change your mind about things. Just because you're queer and no one's ever come up to you and made you feel unwelcome, okay, well, what about a Latin queer person? How are they feeling? No, you don't understand. It's not the same thing. Oh, I know what it's like to be discriminated against because I'm queer. No, you don't, right? If you are somebody who is trans and people just accept you as the gender that you were presenting as, you do not know what it's like for somebody who is also trans that doesn't conform as easily to what people expect out of that gender. You don't know what it's like, right? Do I identify as trans? Yes. Will I ever speak louder than a trans woman or a trans man? No, I will not. No, ma'am. If I am in a room full of Black people, am I going to talk over the darkest skinned person in the room or anyone browner than me? No, ma'am. I will not, because I experience racism very differently than they do. That doesn't mean I don't experience racism, But there's a big difference between someone associating something negatively with you because your skin is dark versus somebody saying, oh, hey, you're one of the good ones. Both of those are horribly toxic. But one of them causes me to go, and the other causes someone to go home and hate how they look and internalize that racism inside of them and have that seed planted in their heart. And when we're talking about art and we're talking about games and we're talking about this kind of stuff, right? Having NPCs that fit not just the makeup of your table, but maybe the makeup of your friend group, maybe the makeup of the friend group you wish you had, right? If you don't have access to as diverse of a populace as you might want. Giving those opportunities, even if you're running an all-white table for your home game, expose your people to your beliefs. If your beliefs are diversity is important and you don't really have, you live in a rural area, there's nothing but white people as far as the eye can see, okay, game with your little white friends. Nobody's gonna yell at you about it, but there better be some fucking black and brown and tan and interesting people, right? There better be some different sexual orientations, some different bodies, right? Some different shapes and sizes, people with and without mobility aids, right? You need to have those people in your games. Put your money where your mouth is. Don't just show up when you're asked to be there. It takes a lot for us to ask. Show up when we ask, but also show up because you fucking know you have to.
Y'all, speaking of putting money where mouth is, and I know I'm making light of a very heavy topic, but in our Wayheart home game, David had in-game people redoing an entire staircase so that there was a centaur accessible staircase.
Boom. This is the kind of action I'm talking about.
But this has been incredible. And I do want to take a minute to kind of step away from some of the heavier stuff, which we have been discussing, which, again, I'm so glad we did. I'm so happy I have you to have these conversations with Candace. But I do want to take some time to talk about why we tell stories and why telling stories, playing games, and consuming stories and fun things right now is also so very important. Because, y'all, we are not in a sprint. We are in a marathon. Sir, we are in a headbutt. We are a cat on a shoulder headbutting a microphone on a shock mount. But escapism is not always a bad thing.
No.
It can't be. But y'all, it's going to get real heavy over the next days, weeks, months, years. And if all you do is focus on the truly terrible, terrifying, horrible things that are happening, you're not going to have anything left. There's going to be nothing left to give. And making sure, like, self-care and joy are rebellion, right? Make sure you are refilling your cup, because if your cup is empty, you can't refill anyone else. And you have to take breaks. And whether those breaks are, I am playing a game I love with people I love and telling a really cool story, or I am sitting down and watch someone I enjoy and admire telling a really cool story and playing games with other people, both of those are good. And even if you were like, I'm going to sit down, I'm playing this game, and it's a streamed game, you are providing an escape for other people. You are providing a new story, a new narrative that people can potentially change their perspective on, because we need hope, right? And there's a great thing going around that's like, not every person on the battlefield is a soldier. We need medics. We need nurses. We need runners. We need people just handing out water. And so, maybe you are chronically ill. Maybe you are disabled. Maybe there are reasons, good and valid, that you cannot be out in the protest. It doesn't mean you can't do nothing.
That's right.
Do what you can. That's the great line from Boondocks. What do you do when, you can't do everything? We do what we can. That's what we have to do. And you have to make sure you pay attention to yourself and your energy level, because my energy levels are not yours, Candace, and yours are not David's, and none of ours are Gilmore's.
No.
None.
I wish, though. I wish.
God's I wish. We need people who are doing work off the battlefield. Exactly.
Yeah.
And
someone has to take care of the people who are fighting.
Yeah.
Because they're damn sure not going to take care of themselves. That's the whole point.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And there was an incredible post that Gemma posted in the political thing on our the Cataclysm Discord server that was about like, this battle is like Bill Nye's laser bees. Because if an asteroid is coming towards Earth, right, there is no one thing that is going to be able to stop that asteroid. You can't blow it up. You can't, sir, just really, just make up your mind. Figure out what you want and let's do it. Right? There is there was a representative from Florida. Gorgeous.
DeSantis?
Yeah. Not DeSantis. No. Whitman? I'm forgetting his name. He's been in like so many things. He's a Democrat who's just upfront and loud right now, and it's great.
Oh, yeah. I can't remember his name right now. He's brown, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's gorgeous gentleman.
Yeah.
And he's like, we don't have a make the bad guy go away button. There is no button that we can push. I know you're mad. And look, there are some Democrats that I am right and truly legitimately pissed at, right? Because they are just not. But there are definitely the Dems that are out there doing what they can. Yes, Candace's lip color is incredible. But like, there is not a push the button, make it go away. Just like if a huge asteroid is coming towards Earth, there isn't a push the button, make it go away. And so Bill Nye is like, well, how do we handle, theoretically, like play a mind game, how do we handle an asteroid coming towards Earth? Laser bees. You get a whole swarm of mechanical bees with lasers, and you shoot them up there. And every bee goes to its little spot, and they laser away at their little spot. And then when they run out of battery, they go into hibernation mode. They use their little solar power wings to recharge, and they trust that the rest of the swarm is doing their part. And when their spot there is done, they find another spot where they can work, and they go. There is no one big great thing we can do. We all have to do our little part. We all have to do what we can. Be that if you're in America and you don't know who your reps are, or you don't know what the big issues are, the number 5calls.org, 5calls.org. Put in your zip code. It'll tell you who your reps are. It will give you their phone numbers and emails. It will give you the biggest issues, and you can pick which ones you want to call about, and it'll give you a script. You just call and read off the script, right? Do what you can. If that's calling every day, sending emails, showing up to whatever local protest, and then telling stories the rest of the time. If that is showing up to your local LGBTQIA center and baking for people. If that is just being available to let someone cry on your shoulder. Because y'all, there's a lot of queer and trans people right now. There's a lot of folks of color, of every orientation, who are terrified and desperately need a shoulder. Like, I'm terrified, and I am a majority in many ways, right? Like, it is terrifying for me. I can't imagine people who are more obvious targets, right? It is horrifying. So do what you can and cling to joy, because we're going to need it.
Sure as hell are. I think, too, make sure that you are taking care of yourself, or seek support, seek community. This is a time when I think we're really going to see community be utilized in a way that maybe we have never relied on it before. And like, how you show up and what you do to show up matters. But as Kay was saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. So like, taking care of yourself, no matter what that looks like, is important. If you are fighting the fight, cool. Tell your friends, hey, I'm going to the protest. Could you check in on me when I come back? Right? You can't go to the protest. I'm that person, right? 2020 came. I wanted to march. I wanted to march like everybody else. George Floyd was murdered in cold fucking blood by the cops, and I was ready. Like, I was ready. I had everything laid out. I had marched for the Women's March in 2016. I was ready to go. So when that happened, and my mom was like, hey, both your brothers have heart conditions. You're basically my only, like, healthy child. Could you not? It's a pandemic. You have comorbidities. If you get sick, I have 2 children that are also sick, that also might die. Could you just please? Like, I don't have to worry about you. I worry about them every day. They have, my one brother was working at a grocery store. The other one was working as a barista. My mom's like, they have public facing jobs, right? They have to go to work and make money. You work at home. Could you just stay home, please? And I had a very serious and very long Skype conversation with my mother, which ended in me having to tell my friends who were going to the march, can you march for me? Like, let me send you some cash for water. Let me send you some cash for gas. What can I do to help uplift you and support you? Because I couldn't go out. If that's where you are, you're not without hope. You're not without an opportunity to create that change, right?
You're not a failure.
You're not. And I mean, I live in Florida, y'all. So when I call my congressman and I do the whole 5 calls thing, I know it's nonsense. Like, I know it's bullshit. It's a waste of time in my mind.
It does put pressure.
But there's an impact.
Yes.
It does put pressure.
That's the thing I want to say, because I know a lot of people are like, what's the point of my even calling? Right? It goes both ways too. To be like, what's the point of my even calling? I live in like my reps are all Democrats. And there's, what's the point of my even calling? My reps are all Republicans. Y'all, the only thing these people care about are votes and money.
That's right.
Votes and campaign donations. So if you're calling, don't call anyone outside of the place where you live, because they're going to go, oh, they're not my constituent. I don't care, unless you're showing up with a big checkbook. If you're showing up with a big checkbook, you can change their hearts and minds, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you have to call and say, I am a constituent. For Democrats, especially the ones that are being a little chicken right now, you got to say,
God.
like,
bring that hammer down.
Fight for me. This is what I want. This is what we want. This is our community. You were elected to represent me in this. Go represent me. Go fight this battle, right? For Republicans, they need to know that they can and will be voted out. They need to know that this is not a done deal. They need to know that, oh, if I keep backing Trump, then I'm maybe not going to have my seat in a year or 2. Next election cycle, I might be out on my ass. And we all know Trump isn't going to stick up for anybody but Trump. Maybe Musk. Maybe.
I mean, if he pays them.
I want more. I want more of the news coverage and all this to just be like, wow, Trump is such a puppet for Elon. Wow, Elon's running the show and Trump is just a puppet, because that's how you hurt his fragile little man ego.
Yeah.
But we got back on this but yeah, there's a reason to it, and it feels hopeless. It feels pointless, but it also feels good to have at least done it. To be able to sit there when everything is terrible, it's like, you know what? I did something today, and I'm going to do something tomorrow. And I'm keeping an eye for when, a rally, a protest, whatever is going to happen in my area, because, y'all, I can't fly to DC.
Same.
But also, right now, the past couple weeks, my greatest joy has been my Wednesday TTRPG game, because I am the only American in it. It is me and 6 British people. So I don't have to think about American politics, because it is not, I mean, they're aware, but it's not in their wheelhouse the way it is the rest of us. And it is such a nice escape.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. I filled out a lines and veils sheet the other day, and I put American politics or U.S. politics without solutions as a line. I was like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to deal with it unless it's solution based.
Right.
If you're telling me that there's a bunch of red tape, no. If you're telling me there's a bunch of red tape and I have a chainsaw, yes.
Yes.
Right? Like
Yes.
I want to be very specific about what I'm willing to put up with in this game
Yes.
right now.
Advocate
for yourselves.
Yes. Mentalavia says, it matters because the illusion of nobody seeing is a hell of a drug. Break the code of silence, clear the fog clouds. Exactly.
Yep.
And that's
People
why,
need to know
like,
there's eyes.
Frickin' Schiff has not answered his phone, and his voicemail box has been full since last Friday. So I'm emailing him at least once a day, and then I am putting it on blast on Blue Sky. Do I think it's doing any good? No, but I want other people to see that this effort is being done. Social media is not a good way to reach your representative, but it's a good way to rally other people. And then
Very
people
true.
who live in DC can show up and go, why aren't you answering your phones? I thought before we wandered there, and it was to do with something you were saying, but and that's what, I can't tell you the number of TTRPG sessions I've shown up for. And, something has gone down in the world, be it politics, be it whatever, or just people are like, I've had a real bad day. I need this siren to not. People are like, I've had a real bad day. And the GM's like, I'd actually planned like a combat encounter today. And they're like, great, I need to punch something. Right? That's one of the things I love about TTRPGs, is most of the time you can either solve the problem through a good talk or punching something.
It's the punching for me.
Look, I play Kinley. I love to be able to go like, are you sure you want to do that? Can we just maybe all be friends? And then roll a nat 20 on a persuasion check. And it's like, okay, you just got to skip the whole first third of that boss fight, right? Like, oh, okay, well, yeah, now you do have that guy on your side. That's going to make everything a lot easier, right? I love doing that. But someday I will get a political intrigue game. I have never gotten to play a political intrigue TTRPG, and it's all I want. It's all I want.
Yeah, I want to be a little sneaky snake.
I build conspiracy boards. I run the home games Obsidian. I just proofread 22 pages of notes from our last session. Like, give me that. But we are reaching the end of our time. We went deep and hard and dark and serious. Please. I want it more than anything. Please. Lavia says they will DM it for us. Political intrigue, give it to me.
Please. Yay.
Yes. So, how do we even sum all this up, Candace? We went far.
The summary is the world sucks. Be a good person, and not a good person that talks about being good, but somebody who actually is good. It is hard to be good, especially in this world. But you know what? It's fucking worth it. And I think, and Kay obviously thinks, that it is more than, you all are more than up to the challenge. Just sitting here listening to us talk at you about these issues hopefully will inspire you to go and talk to other people. Don't be afraid to have those conversations, because at the end of the day, we are entering unprecedented times where, quite frankly, if people don't feel the way that you feel and you know that you're in the right, fuck them.
Yeah.
Whether that's at the table or in your day-to-day, fuck them. Because you deserve, escapism from this ridiculous and terrible world that we're all kind of fighting uphill against. And the only way to do that is by making sure that you have the right people along for your adventure. And B, everybody needs a reset so you can go out there and kick some more ass. So either way, live your truth and live your beliefs. Don't waffle or take shortcuts there, because even if it doesn't affect you, it might affect somebody that you love and that you care about. And that's not what we're about right now.
And especially because things are terrible and exhausting, take time for you, take time for joy, take time for stories, take time to check on your friends, check on yourself. And again, joy is an act of rebellion. Art is an act of rebellion. You might not always be up to it, and that's okay. But when you are able to, seize your power, seize your joy, create art, do awesome things. And thank you for spending an evening with us. Candace, who the heck is you, and where can we find you?
I am Candace, also known as Candace Magnificent. You can find me at the Candace Marie on Twitter and Blue Sky, and at Candace Magnificent everywhere else. If you want to see some of the stuff I'm doing, and you want to be sad and in your feelings, feel free to check out Frequencies wherever you get your podcasts. It is an audio drama that's improvised, but also a sort of a Kids on Bikes game about a group of creatives that are struggling to figure out what to do after they sell their product and go big. If you are somebody who is ever worried about compromising your beliefs and doing things and becoming someone that perhaps you did not want or expect, that's the show for you. It is stressful, but very good, if I do say so myself. You can also hear more of me on City of the Black Rose, Herald of Shadows, which is over on Three Black Halflings. If you've never heard of Three Black Halflings, do yourself a favor, check them out. They're pretty good. They have weekly episodes, as well as sometimes interviews and stuff. I know a secret about someone they're going to be interviewing, and I'm not allowed to talk about it, but it's pretty awesome and fucking fantastic. So you definitely want to keep your eyes peeled for that. No, it is not me. And if you are a video game player and you liked the game Monaco that came out, I think in like 2014, Monaco 2 is coming out, and you can hear me as Una the Brute. So get excited and add it to your Steam wishlist.
And I'm Kay Purcell. I have been your co-host for the evening. Thank you again for hanging out with us. Always, we are here every Tuesday doing this, the Table Talk Show. Right now, really the only other thing I've got going on is the Weird Wilds War, which is every other Friday, which is not this Friday, but next Friday over at Entropy Emporium. But I have a session 0 this week. I don't think you and I think I and other people have a recording next week.
Yes.
You have one this week. I have one next week. For things that are coming, we have multiple things in the works, but life. Season 4 of the Emergency Power Podcast is being edited, and oh yeah, Candace, I may be working on editing episode 2 of that thing you've been waiting for.
Oh my God, don't tease me.
No,
I want it in my hand right now.
I know, I'm working. I'm trying so hard, but life keeps exploding.
It sure fucking does.
I was like 2024 going out with hands, and 2025's coming in swinging. Okay, here we go.
Ugh.
But once again, thank you all so much for hanging out with us. Thank you for your thoughts. Thank you for sharing your experiences. Thank you for pointing out things. Candace will tell you, anytime we have a guest in the green room, I'm like, chat is amazing. They're going to try to derail us. They're going to have great insights. Like, Cataclysm has the best chat. And thank you all for being part of this. We're going to find someone to raid. Once again, and as always, especially right now, be kind to yourself and be excellent to others. And we will see you next time.